Hello, my name is Deanna Heikkinen, and I teach at Los Angeles Valley College and also West Los Angeles College, and I'm the Distance Education Coordinator at Los Angeles Valley College. And this presentation is on syllabus redesign, and not just adding new content to your syllabus, but actually how to redesign the entire syllabus so it is a lot more engaging right from the start of the class for the students. And so I'll go through and I'll give you some pointers on how to create this, some best practices, and show you some different examples of what I've been using in my classes for the last year and a half or so. So the syllabus, as I'm sure everyone knows, is the first impression that a student gets of the professor and the class. Some professors send their syllabi out prior to the class starting. Some give it out the first day if it's a face-to-face class, or once that shell is open for an online class, the students can see the syllabus. I personally send it out before the class, or a link to the syllabus before the class starts, so students can see what is expected of them, and I've seen that this helps them if they actually want to drop, and then that way other students can enroll. But that is completely up to the individual instructor. There's, I think some pros and cons for both doing before or right when the class starts. But I believe that the syllabus should be engaging and informative to the student and go beyond just that a whole bunch of text on one sheet of paper. And really, you can capture their interest about the subject right from the start of the class. The feedback that I've been receiving from students is, wow, and I love your syllabus, and this is really cool. I was excited about this class when I saw your syllabus. And so it's pretty much all been positive. I haven't had any negative feedback, or at least not that I've been told. If the students don't like it, they haven't necessarily shared that with me. But there are some just overall things that have to be included in the syllabus. One is the syllabus needs to let the student know the instructor's expectations, and also include the course materials, what books they're going to need, any assignments they're going to be needing to do, course description, SLOs, course objectives, due dates, grading criteria, disabled student services, and any other sort of services that are available. I think that are it's also nice to list those on the syllabus, but those are pretty much the standard things that I think most colleges have that need to be on their syllabus. You can always add more, and I've added quite a bit more. And as we go through this, I'll show you what I've added, and I'll kind of talk about why I think these things are important as well. So the traditional syllabus, as I'm sure most people are familiar with, is just a black and white text. It can be intimidating to students. That first day they get this document. I've seen some syllabi that are upwards of 12, 15 pages. Others are just a couple of pages. They're definitely not that engaging. And so I'm going to put a link in the chat window here to my old syllabus, and it'll probably look familiar for a lot of you. And then I'm going to share it with you as well on the screen. And this should look pretty familiar. You have your name, email, how to get a hold of you, when your drop-in hours are, textbook, the description, outcomes, and then what the students are going to have to do as far as the workload. I break down the points. I do a straight point system. I don't have any weighted grades, but everybody does that different. And then a schedule, pretty standard. Nothing in the syllabus is that extraordinary. In my old syllabi, I would actually put in the assignment sheets that you see here, and they would already have this information. And I've really transformed my classes. All of my classes are web enhanced now, so a lot of this stuff can go into that web enhanced shell, and I've cut back on what I'm doing on my syllabus in some respects, but I've added some other things in its place. Again, accommodations, late policies, and just some extra stuff. So not very exciting, 7 pages of text, some bolding, but not really that engaging for the student, and it may be a little bit overwhelming for them. And so what I was in the Faculty Teaching and Learning Academy through the Los Angeles Community College District, and one of our projects was to work on a syllabus redesign, and you'll see the product of that. And I'm actually, I was really excited to do it, and I've been sharing this syllabus redesign with people on my campus, within my district, at some conferences, and I'm really excited to be sharing it for the online teaching conference as well with all of you. So there's a lot of potential to make the syllabus more engaging. You can bring color into the mix, and you don't have to print your syllabus. You can have an electronic delivery, and so you can really have a lot of fun and make it look like a magazine, and that was one of my sort of goals in recreating my syllabus. So I will show you the new syllabus that I've created. Again, I'm going to put this link in the chat window, and I'm going to go over to the web application. And so this is my new syllabus here. I'm going to actually shrink it a little bit so you can see more of each page. So the first page, I put a picture of myself. Whether I'm teaching face-to-face or online, I want them to, know who I am. They've seen me around campus, like, oh, I've seen her. Or if it's online, they're really, let them know right up front, this is me, this is what I look like, and sort of have this humanizing effect. And so as you scroll down, you can see that it's very colorful. I've used these little text blocks, and I've tried to make it a lot easier and clearer. I've added some graphics, different colors, and I try to let my personality through comics or just the way that I write it come through as well. And I think that's important because up front they can see what the class is going to be about, and maybe some things that you are excited about as well. And I'm going to go page by page through the PowerPoint and show you a lot of these different tools that I've created for the syllabus. But I wanted to show you the syllabus in its entirety, and we'll come back to this and I'll talk about some new things that I've done since the PowerPoint has the first one I did, and then every semester I update it, and I can talk about some new tips and tricks that I've been doing as well. So the delivery method is important. If you're going to create a syllabus like this, you cannot print it, or you can print it, but it would be very expensive, and I doubt colleges would have money to print in color and make it look nice. For my students who want to have a printed copy, whether online or face-to-face, I recommend certain pages that they print, and I recommend that they print it black and white because they can always access it electronically on their phone, their smart device, their computer, and so I have it posted just on an open website. And I have a personal website for teaching. It's Weebly.com, and I'll actually show you. This is the URL. I'm copying the wrong thing here. I'll put the URL in the chat window as well, and I'll show you how I've created my website. And you can email it to your students. Most student information systems have an email capability, and so you can just email it out to all your students. I use a website, that way they can access it from their phones. I tell them to bookmark that website, and then they can always refer to the syllabus. So let me show you a little bit about the website. This is my Professor Deanna Hakenin website, and this is my home page. It talks a little about who I am, a recent publication that I had, and then because I teach at 2 colleges, I have a tab for each of those colleges. My Vita is up there, I have my philosophy statement up there, and then all my contact information. So if you click on my LA Valley College website, it lists all the courses that I've taught at the college, and then I have my syllabi for the last 3 semesters because I don't always teach the same classes every semester. And so for spring 2014, these are the classes that I'm teaching, and so they can click on, and these are live links. It won't open in this webinar, but if you go to that website, you can click and you can see samples of my syllabi. For West LA College, I actually go back to fall 2012 for this training actually in particular, because that is my old syllabus. From spring of 2013 through current spring of 2014, I've been doing this updated syllabus. And if you click on each of those links, you can see how I've kind of changed things every semester. I'm getting really happy with what it is, where it's at now. And so this website is through Weebly, and WordPress, there are tons of hosting where you can host a free website. So if you want to create this kind of a syllabus, I recommend getting one of these free websites and putting your syllabi up there so students can access it. Again, you can email it, and then the LA Valley College and West LA College both use Etudes for their online platform. But if you're using Canvas or Blackboard or anything else, you can, obviously if you're teaching online, you can just put your syllabus into the course shell, or if you web enhance your classes, most colleges have a portal or some way that you can have an online shell for your face-to-face classes. And if you don't, Google Docs is another way you can share this. You can just upload it to Google Docs and then share it. You can do it with a Dropbox account. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can share the syllabus with your students prior to the semester, or even when the semester starts. Again, that's a personal decision how you want to manage that. So I have a little warning here. This is really important. It takes a lot of time and energy to create this. The first time I did it, I spent about 20 hours on each syllabus. The second time I did it, instead of just going in that traditional black and white syllabus, where you go in and you change the dates and you maybe update your textbook, or change your office hours or the class time and the course record number. A few changes, but most of it stays the same. This I redesign almost every semester. I'm adding new chunks. I'm seeing what students are responding to, what they're looking for. And I tell my students every semester, hey, give me feedback, because this is a working and a living document, and I want to make sure that it's going to have everything that students need to be successful in the class. And so I'm always asking students for feedback. And the first time you do this, maybe do it for one class, because it does take a lot of time, unless you want to spend a chunk of time over the summer or your winter break doing it. Maybe start with one class and then add the second class, or however you want to do it. Once you get the template done, though, it does go quicker to redesign it, but it still takes more time than the traditional syllabus. So just warning, this is very time heavy. It's going to take more time than normal. I use Microsoft Word for the design. I have both Mac and PC, and then so I use Word in either platform. And I'm going to show you the PC versions. I think more people use PCs from my experience. And so I'll be going through the tutorials, but you can also do it in a Mac. And then I also use Adobe Acrobat. I have the full suite that you can get with a discount through the Chancellor's Office and some other educational software sort of providers that distribute different software to educators. So you can get Adobe Acrobat fairly inexpensively. The nice thing about it is that you can do an accessibility check, and it'll go through your document, and it's not 100%, but it helps a lot to make sure that everything is accessible, that you're not using, that you've done your alt text on your images, and everything is going to be 508, Section 508 compliant. And then for distribution, it's easier to have it as a PDF, and in Word you can save it as a PDF, so you don't need Adobe Acrobat for that. But I recommend having it as a PDF to distribute it, because it kind of seals everything, and so nothing can get changed or moved. And then there's going to be the compatibility. There won't be any compatibility issues. People can open it up on their smartphones. They can open it up on any computer. PDF is pretty universal, And so that'll be quite helpful as well. So the first page, and these are just kind of best practices or what I recommend. By no means are these things set in stone, so just know that. But for me, the first page, I include the course information. I put an image of myself, my contact information, and if you see my contact information, they can contact me via email or through Etudes for the online class. I have a professor, the Weebly website, there's a little contact form, so they can contact me through my professor website. I have a Facebook account for just me as a professor. They can contact me through there. I have an anthropology Facebook page. They can contact me through that, or they can call me. Notice my phone is on the bottom. I do that purposefully because all of these other things, I am much better at responding. I have it on my phone, on my iPad, on my computer, and so I can get those messages a lot quicker. Sometimes my office phone, just because I have 2 different offices for different roles that I have on campus, I may not get to that phone for a week. And I tell my students that. So if there's a caveat about email or always inform your students the best way to get in touch with you, and I kind of list them in order of the best way to get in touch with me. This is a native people of North America, so I put an image here relevant to the class. And if you see these blue boxes, these are hyperlinks in the PDF. For this, you have to have Adobe Acrobat or another PDF markup software to create these links. And then what it is, on that first page, they can click on this and it'll go right to these different parts of the syllabus, which is pretty helpful. And then down here, this is just a statement from my teaching philosophy. You can set this page up however you want. If you don't want to include your teaching philosophy, that's fine. But you can definitely play with it. And again, I really recommend letting your personality come out. It's going to come out in class. It's going to come out, in your discussion or how you grade. So I am a real advocate for, letting my students know my teaching style or my personality they're going to be interacting with during the class anyway. The second page is where I put the course descriptions, the SLOs, course objectives, and these are all from the course outline of record. And then on this side, I sort of break it down into lay terms. So up here I have why study Native Americans, why I think this class is important and what I think that they'll be getting out of it. I have here what is the class about. So this course description I've put in sort of lay terms. And then here, why should they care? Because a lot of students, I teach anthropology and humanities, and a lot of students, aside from the majors, are just checking off a box for general education. And so I like to communicate with them why this class is important, how it might be relevant to their life in a bigger picture other than just checking that box off for transfer or whatever their goal is for taking the class. On the third page, I have the important dates, and I've actually changed this, and I'll show you some of my updated syllabi as well and how I've changed this around. I have the textbook, the ISBN, I have a link to the publisher website, and I have an image of the version I want them to buy. In science classes, in some other classes, I don't, like for physical anthropology, I tell them they need to get the most current update version because there's been usually a lot of changes from one to the other. There's a lot of new discoveries in the evolutionary line, etc. And so you can have a note, you need this listed edition for this class, and just spell that out so they know I should get this edition. And then I have the reading assignments. What I've also learned is that even though you say they should have this edition, not everybody will buy it, so they may have an earlier edition. And so I don't just list chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. I list also either the topics or sort of an abbreviated title of the chapter. And that's been helpful. That way students can kind of align what their book is with what I'm going to be using in the class. This box over here is what they can expect from the class. So they'll be reading, they'll be having a discussion, they'll be writing, there'll be some short videos and documentaries, and then they'll be doing a digital project where they'll be presenting. And so again, I kind of break down what the class is going to be about and what they're expected to do in sort of lay terms. On the fourth page, I have the evaluation of student performance, and I started doing this pie chart because what it does is that it gives them a visual reference of what these points mean. So if a student is overloading on classes, has a full-time job, a family to take care of, and they have to miss an assignment, they can look and say, okay, the discussions are a huge part of my grade, I should do those. But the film report isn't that big, so I can probably not do that one and still pass the class, because that's less than 10% worth the total point. Or maybe not do as well on that particular assignment. And so I've gotten really positive feedback from students on this, that they really like seeing that because it gives them this idea of this bigger picture of what the assignments are and how much they, the points are mean. If you have any sort of little caveats, I tell them that not having internet or a computer is, you can't use that as a valid excuse for being late, because there are computer labs and there are all these things available for them to access online on campus. And so I just have a little caveat. And again, a picture relevant to the class. And you can fill in some extra spaces however you want. This fifth page is grading expectations. And in that FTLA program I was in, this was brought up, and we kind of borrowed from each other in there. And one of my colleagues came up with this, and I've adapted it to my own classes. And I have an online and a face-to-face version. And so I tell my students really to read through this. If you want an A in this class, this is what you need to do and the level of commitment to the class that you need to have. Grade B, C, D, and F, and all the way down. Now again, I'm giving you links to Weebly where my syllabi are, so you can look at this and you can definitely borrow it. I also have here something about late assignments and about grading. And so it spells everything out for them. And so there should be no guessing. There should really be no surprises by the end of the semester. On this next page, this is the one where the page, I'll go back. I tell students if they want to print anything out, to print out this page with all the assignment dates on it, to print out this page with the grades on it, and to print out this page here. Personally, I don't tally grades until the very end of the semester, and so I've made this chart for students to keep track of their grades, because inevitably, even though I tell them I don't tally grades to the end of the semester, I hand everything back, everything is graded, and so they should be able to track their own grades. They still don't do it. And so I came up with this template, and they can fill in all of their scores, and at any point they can know where they're at in the class. And so this, I tell them to print this out, and then definitely for face-to-face, this page here, they can share contact information with other people in the class, and then they can form study groups, or if they miss a day, they know who to contact to get the materials that they missed, etc. And so this page has been really well received by students as well. And then this seventh page, I have academic policies, and I have live links right to our Board of Trustees, these board rules. And so academic dishonesty and plagiarism, I have a little write-up. And then I also link straight to the board rule where it explains our policies on academic dishonesty and plagiarism. This repeatability, I know it came out a couple years ago, but students are still not fully well versed in it, so I do leave it on the syllabus even now, talking about that they only have 3 attempts, and I go through and I explain that to them as well. And then the attendance and drop policy, and again, I go right to the district policy on that. They can link to it and they can read it. So I'm not providing an interpretation, so there's no room for sort of error or misunderstanding, they can look right to the source and get the information. And then on this last page, I have this "Do you need assistance" box. And here there is this for the Learning Center, so if they need any assistance with tutoring or writing, they can contact this office. Again, it links right to that office's webpage where they can schedule appointments and get all the information about hours and things like that. Financial aid is also listed here. It's a live link straight to financial aid webpage, and then they can read about the services, what kind of documentation they would need to bring in, schedule an appointment. And then the accommodation statement, where this one is a little more fleshed out, but I also have a link straight to the office where they can set up an appointment to contact that office. Again, some pictures relevant to the class, and my research is in archaeology, and so if they're interested, they can click on this link and learn more about the dig in Egypt that I was a part of. So again, trying to personalize it and let them get to know me a little bit better just through the syllabus. So how to create this new syllabus. Again, I'm using Microsoft Word 2013 in this presentation, and I'm using the PC version, not the Mac version. So all of these screenshots will be from a PC. So the first thing you do is just open up a new document in Microsoft Word. Should be easy enough, hopefully. And then, again, this is 2013, so it may look different if you have an earlier version. But if you go to the second tab over called Insert, and then you click over here to Text Box, this box with all of these different types of text boxes, they're going to come up, and then you can scroll down and choose the type of text box. There's a couple of caveats, though. I recommend you, if you want a long text box on the side, choose one that's already shaped that way. Even if you don't like the colors, you can right-click on the box itself. Again, right-click, and you can change the colors of the text box. You can format that if you'd like to change the color scheme, but find the shape and sort of the style that you like, and don't worry about colors because those are easy to change. If you want a smaller little, kind of block quote or something, you can put distance. So you just click on it, and then you'll insert it. So when you have these, you can type right into the text box. So here's a text box. You can type right into it. And again, if you right-click, you can change the color. You can change the color of the font and the background. So again, keep the shapes sort of where you want them to be on the page. If you want a long kind of a scroll bar, or if you want a long, a small little box. Now these, if you take the corner, you can drag them bigger, and you can make them smaller. And you can also format them by right-clicking again, clicking on Format, Shape, and then you can do Tight. It's called Tight. And I recommend that because then you're going to be allowed to move them close together without having to have a space around. Just to let you know, when you're working with these text boxes initially and you're not that familiar with them, it can be a little difficult because if you put one in, it may move everything else on the page. And so patience is definitely a virtue when creating the syllabus, especially for the first time and you don't have any sort of raw template. And so let's look a little closer at some of the content that I've created. So a lot of our students are, as we know through the literature and what we're seeing just all over the state and even in the nation, are underprepared. And so I think that if you can grab their attention right from the start with this kind of a syllabus, you can engage them and kind of hook them from the beginning. And by capturing their interest, I've seen that they are more successful in the class if they're more engaged in the class. Don't be afraid to experiment. Tell your students, hey, I took this workshop and I'm trying out this new syllabus. Let me know what you think. And they'll be honest with you. I haven't had really a lot of negative feedback, but there are some people that say, oh, I think it would be better if you did this, and so I've created that, and you'll see my new syllabus from what's on this PowerPoint. I leave this one so you can see sort of the evolution of what I've done, but the new syllabus has some different features, and that comes out of asking students for feedback and having them really kind of interact with me. So in terms of breaking down the language, you do need to have the official course description from the catalog. That's, I think, a requirement for almost all colleges. But you can also have another little text box and break down the language very colloquially. This may be a little off-putting. People are like, it's all convoluted. I don't really understand what all this stuff is. But you can break it into more just general terms, especially if you teach in a really technical field or an advanced subject. Definitely include important dates. I recommend that you always include your drop dates and the final exam date. And some of my online classes, they have weekly assignments, and they're pretty standard. And so I just, instead of listing all of those out, they're going to find them online. They're going to find them in the course map, which is the schedule for the online platform. And so I just added this little this little note down here that there'll be discussions and quizzes due throughout the course, and they'll be looked in there. But I do list the film report, the digital project, and so major assignments are listed here on these important dates along with the final exam. The textbook information, again, I think including the publisher website is really important because a lot of publishers now sell ebooks and students can save some money. They also sometimes rent the book, and I know some bookstores do that as well. But also what I tell my students is that on the publisher website there's a lot of material that they can use to help them succeed in the class, such as online, sort of practice quizzes, all of these, like sort of flashcards and extra things that publishers are now offering. I recommend that my students use that. And then the ISBN is also critical to have on there. Again, let them know about, do you want this edition, or also let them know you can get this is the 4th edition, the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th would be acceptable for this class. And the picture is important, that way they know when they're shopping they have the right book. If there are, in my humanities classes, I teach using a lot of Penguin Classics, and there are different covers, and so on those I will let them know there may be a different cover to this book. The reading assignments, again, put down the chapter number, but also put down the topic or the chapter title. If it's really long, you can abbreviate it by just, usually there's a initial title and then there's a colon and a more broken down title. You can just put the initial title just so they can follow along and really understand where you're at. And then for the assignment information, this is a good place to put any policies you have for assignments. For me, all my students, I make them turn them in as PDFs for a couple of reasons. One, I use a PDF markup software to grade, and so I have all my comments saved there. I drag and drop my comments. Of course, I write in new comments and I write in a little thing at the end, but my rubric is saved there, so it's a lot easier. So all my students upload as PDFs, and also it's teaching them a skill that they're going to need out in the real world, because PDF is so important to so many jobs that you need to know how to save a Word document into PDF, and it's really simple. I have a whole worksheet teaching them how to do that from different programs. The evaluation, having that visual representation of points has been extremely well received, like I said before. Your points, again, your total, if you use a straight point system, let them know how many points they need to get whatever grade that they're seeking. If it's a C, just to pass the class, or if they want an A because they're trying to transfer to a top-tier university, whatever it is, this helps the students understand. And then definitely the breakdown just in words how much each thing is worth. I talked quite a bit about this expectations, but again, students are pretty amazed, like, wow, that really helps a lot. to understand what you expect and what A students are, because we have students that say, oh, why did I fail the class? I showed up sometimes and I turned in a few things, but this really sort of spells it out, so there's no questions. And so when I get sort of students asking or challenging about a grade, I always pull this out and say, at the very beginning of the semester we went through this and I explained this, and you were down, your level of commitment was down further and your grade reflected that, and it's really kind of helped. And I'm like, I would recommend, and I tell my students, take this and use it sort of as a guide. Every professor is going to be different, but it has some just general best practices for whatever grade that they're seeking, and they can use it for other classes as well. Again, academic policies, if you can, link directly to the policy so there's no question of interpretation and that you misunderstood something. It really is helpful for the students to understand these policies and to get used to going directly to the source. As a historian, that's always sort of one of my pet peeves, is that things just get forwarded on social media, on the internet, and people don't actually go and look at the source to see if it's true. So this is kind of going back to that idea of taking the students back to the source and letting them read it. And if they have questions, if they can't really understand it, then I tell them to come visit me or to email me and I'll help them. But I want them to get used to having to check up on the sources and kind of look back, and then I explain the difference between if I was to interpret and put it in my own words versus what they're reading, it may be different. And then closing thought, basically on the end, you can put some personal things. I put personal things throughout my syllabus. I make it interactive with those live links where they can just skip down to a page. And I try to engage my students right actually before class even starts by having this sort of syllabus. And it's been really, again, I've had a lot of positive feedback thus far. Okay, I'm going to go back to the web sharing and go over some of the changes that I've made in my syllabi since I started using this process. And so this is for this semester. I have added a Twitter account, and so I now am tweeting. And I told my students it's the first time that I'm doing it, and I've actually been really bad. It's not in the cycle of things that I normally do yet, and so I'm working on that. Again, this is a live link, so I can click on this, and it'll take me right to that page. And that's something that you have to do in Adobe Acrobat or another PDF markup software, but that's been the students like, that they can just link from this table or this table of contents or index and go right to what they need to in the syllabus. Excuse me. So that's pretty much what's changed on that page. Because I teach humanities, a lot of students don't necessarily know what humanities is. So if you teach a subject that maybe students aren't familiar with coming out of high school, or it's a Gen Ed subject that they've maybe heard of, you can explain what it is here. And so I explain what humanities is, because first day of class, whether it's online or in person, I ask my students, so what are we going to be studying in this class? And most of them don't know. Again, I have the breakdown, what they'll learn, why should they care. And if you look at this why should you care, again, my personality comes out a little bit on this last sentence. You can also impress your friends with knowledge when you see the movies that make horrific flaws in retelling history, or impress your mate with knowledge in the museum. So, I try to be funny, or try to, break the ice a little bit with some of these types of statements. And again, I think it is helpful. I have split up my assignments and important dates. I now have a separate box with important dates, which include holidays and drop days, and I still include the final exam here. And I do this that way, if they need to know, hey, do we have a holiday on this day, or when's our spring break, they can look here. It's right on the syllabus. This particular class, they're reading Penguin Classics, which is common for me to use in my humanities class. I supplement with a lot of online material, and I have pictures of those. And I tell them that they can get any version. It doesn't have to be the Penguin here. A lot of them actually just got the ebook on their Kindle on their phone. Again, read what they'll be doing in class. So I have that laid out. And then here I have the textbook and online reading assignments. Now these are all modules that I've created because I don't have necessarily a textbook that covers this particular class. So I've created a lot of content on my own. And so that's been helpful, having that web enhanced. So the reading assignments are separate from the important dates, and then I have assignments and due dates separate. And then I explain what journal and reading apprenticeship assignments are. And so I try to break everything down so there's no questions. And I send this out prior to the class. And so the students are able to have access to it and really read it and understand what the class is about. I still have the broken down evaluation, information about the assignments. I had some extra room when I was creating the syllabus, so I created a new block called How to Succeed in a College Class. And this came out of just some different meetings I had on campus, the Student Success Conference by the RP group that I went to, and just some different things. And so I just typed up 5 sort of best practices that I thought would be helpful for them to have. And so if you have extra room when you're creating this syllabus, you can definitely have this sort of thing, How to Succeed in a College Class. I also include comics. This one I think is actually quite funny. And so try to break the ice a little bit, let them know that I'm a real person. I'm not just the stoic thing at the front of the classroom or digitally through the computer on an online class. But I want them to get to know me just by looking at the syllabus as well. Again, the assistance, the Writing Center, Reading Center, Financial Aid, Accommodation Statement, all of these things are available to the students. And then these are pictures of things that we're going to be talking about in the class. Jane Austen, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa by Bernini, and then a picture of Mozart, just so they can know sort of, oh, that must be stuff we're going to talk about in this class. Again, I have the grade tracker here, course contacts, quote, this grading sort of breaking down. And then on the last page I have my academic policies. And so this is now 9 pages. The first time I did it was 7 pages. And each class is a little different because I have different images or different requirements. And so as I'm going through and redoing these, it's becoming easier and takes less time, but it is still time consuming because if I change one assignment, then I have, every class, these are going to change. So I basically take this block, I delete everything, and I start from scratch. The same here. So in the fall, I'm not teaching this class, and so I'll have a different class in its place, and I'll just delete all this inside content in Word, obviously, not as a PDF, and then I will create it from scratch. But the blocks are created, and that makes it really easy. These images I got directly from the Penguin website. I just right-click copy and paste it right in there because I use their books for my courses. And all of these have alt text on them, and so this just says picture of Professor Heikkinen and a picture of this book, Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. So all of these have alt text, so they are accessible. So make sure that you always, for any images, especially if you're delivering this online, you need to have that alt text. And you can do that in Word. You can click on the picture and it says alternative text, and you just type in what you want it to say if the student is using a screen reader. Let me show you another syllabus. This is for anthropology. It's a little bit different. Hopefully it'll come up. Just a second. Let me just go back here. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty transferring from pages. Okay. It's not letting me go to the other syllabus. Sorry about that. Let me try one more time. Okay. So basically, sorry about that, I was going to show you the other one, but I did include the link in the chat room, and it's the anthropology one. You can go through and look at that. And again, there's just some different chunking out. Just I've changed things around, more comics on that one, less images. So it just depends on what you want to put on your syllabus. Again, in Microsoft Word, play with it. Don't be afraid. You can undo anything that you do. You can definitely, when you're adding those text boxes, let me go back to that slide. When you're adding these text boxes, you can, just insert them, and you can move them around and change how they look. You can change their shapes, again, by dragging the corners of the text box, changing the font, changing the background color. So you can really make this your own. You don't have to use exactly what I did. I've been training faculty on doing this quite a bit, and they'll email me and say, hey, mine doesn't look like yours. And I'm like, that's great. We don't want all of this to be carbon copy, because it should really be a personal thing. It should really reflect who you are, about your teaching, about the classes that you teach. And so I don't think that there should be one cookie cutter. Let's make this magazine style syllabus. Not all magazines look alike, so I don't think all this type of syllabus should look alike. But I'm just trying to encourage faculty to have a really sort of interesting, engaging syllabus for their students to look at. And it gives them a perception that you're really committed to teaching, you're innovative, you're sort of ahead of the times in teaching and presenting information. And I think students are really excited about that from the very beginning of the class. So I highly recommend you play around with this. I'm going to type my email address in the chat window, and you can contact me. I can send you the Word documents and with my template, and then you can move and play around, and then you have that if you need that as sort of a guideline. Again, I change them around every semester, so I have a couple of templates. So just let me know if you're interested in that. Send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to send you my, a Word template that I've used, and then you can, create and make it your own as well. Well, thank you very much for watching this webinar, listening to this webinar. And again, there's my email address. There are some examples for you to look at. All the information's in the chat window. And I hope you enjoy creating your new syllabi and having a lot of fun with it. And again, it's going to take time, and don't be afraid to experiment. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.